tend to put stuff like that out. It gives me some free content.
Cool, cool. All right. So 25 seconds.
Yep.
I'm going to put my mic on silent. Arm yourselves, America. This is Defenders Live on Mojo 50 Radio, where you can live free. Tonight, I have with me Richard Manning. Richard has spent a bunch of quality time with some people that everybody should get to know. How do I put this? You spent time with the president and the vice president recently. You're what is the organization you're part of? Go ahead and.
Americans for Limited Government.
Americans for Limited Government. Okay, that's the best thing there. And so you're the president of Americans for Limited Government, and you've been talking with the actual president of the United States and the vice president. I hear.
Yeah. This afternoon, I got the opportunity to sit down with the president, the vice president, chief of staff, a number of other people who people would know who. And they were providing a little bit of insight in terms of the State of the Union, and it's now I can't quote anything from any of them, but I can give you my insights based upon what I've been told.
Okay, so no quotings, no exact quotes. But if you guys do have questions in the meantime, while we're going through this, he's going to be here for the first segment. If you have questions, post them up. If I read them and see them and they're good questions, they're not just like what his favorite Jell-O pudding is or something, I'll read it on the air, and we'll get it going. But before we do that, I need to talk to you about one of our sponsors of the show. Our show today is brought to you by Era Capital Management. That's ERA Capital Management. See, hiring a financial advisor can cause a considerable amount of anxiety. After all, it's hard-earned money, and it's your money, and we're talking about here. So, talk to the folks over at Air Capital Management and learn why working with a fiduciary fee-only advisor is the right thing to do. Your life, your era. Invest in it. Era Capital Management LLC is registered investor advisors. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. Go to eracapitalmanagement.com. That's eracapitalmanagement.com or 509-559-6229. If you can't remember that, just go to eracapitalmanagement.com. Ask for Jacob. He'll let you know what's going on. That's eracapitalmanagement.com. Go get some investment advice because we all need it. So, speaking of investment advice,
Sure.
What's all going on with the spending?
Put it all in red.
Oh my God.
The what's going on with spending? Fact of the matter is, we have a spending problem in this country. It's enormous, and both sides of the aisle bear blame. We have but one of the things that's absolutely true is that in the last Congress, when ostensibly the Republicans had control of the House and the Senate and the presidency, the one thing that they didn't have control over was the process in the Senate. And they had to get eight or nine, depending on when it was in the 2-year cycle, 8 or 9 Democrat votes for any budget bill, for any spending bill. And as we saw recently with the shutdown, if the Democrats choose to withhold those votes, the government gets shut down and the Republicans get blamed.
Mm-hmm.
Consequently, what's up with the spending is the Democrats like to do it. The Republicans also like to do it. So but any spending constraint gets kind of thrown out the window when the Democrats say, we're going to shut down the government if you don't give me what we want. And the Republicans are all too willing to say, oh, if you twist my arm, I'll spend more. So,
no, don't do it. Don't do it. No.
you make the right point, because we don't have a revenue problem in this country. We've got a spending problem in this country, and it's a relatively simple pathway to get ourselves to balance. But there needs to be the political will. And one thing that I know is the politicians need to hear from people say, we care about spending. We care about spending. Stop spending our future into oblivion.
Well, I mean, the entire point. So exactly like your sign, like your business is, Americans for limited government. So one of the things that we have to do with limited government is we have to limit our spending. We have to limit what we're doing. And speaking of spending, you were with the president and the vice president. They obviously are trying to push a new sort of spending bill for the to stop the government shutdown, and to make sure that the funding gets put in place for this wall, barrier, steel structure, whatever you want to call it, and it talks about such. How's that going?
Well, the Democrats haven't, they said, if we just open the government up, we'll talk. And, and so the president said, yeah, it's open, and they are not talking. So it is so I don't know. It doesn't appear right now that the Democrats are overly willing to move forward in terms of spending on and I'm going to call it a steel barrier, because I think that's what the president's going to call it.
Okay.
And a steel barrier that is big and is tall, and it's going to make it so it's very hard to get across. But it's not it'll be huge. Huge. But I can tell everybody out there one simple thing. I've sat with the president 3 times in the last 4 weeks. Each time was built around this barrier issue. And he is absolutely determined that he's going to get a barrier built in order to ensure the safety of the public. It may not be the barrier that he initially thought about. It may not be one of the cool little designs he looked at down on the border, but he's going to get something built that helps secure this country. Because the one thing he knows for certain is without those barriers, the status quo will continue. I believe that tomorrow he'll be talking about, at the State of the Union, he'll be talking about his immigration plan as a whole and reforming immigration as a whole. It's not a plan that says no immigration. It's a plan that says controlled immigration, it's responsible immigration, and immigration where people don't just cut in front of the line and say, well, I'm here and you're not, so tough. So it's a responsible plan. He's spoken about it before. I think it's something that he's really going to be reaching across the aisle and saying, this is something you guys should be able to support. It's going to challenge the Democrats to support it.
Okay. And one of those, so the cases with his plan, and that I know you can't give specifics about a lot of stuff, but with his plan, is it going to include things like a DACA deal? Is that part of that reaching across the aisle sort of thing? Or is it something else completely?
I think we may hear a lot of the stuff that he said before in terms of some DACA deal, trying to deal with the chain migration issue, trying to deal with the amnesty issue, trying to deal with the whole if you get across the border, we're not allowed to do anything with you. If you have a child with you, he's going to try to reach across and say, let's deal with this. Here's a comprehensive idea on how to go about this. And it'll be a comprehensive idea that has a lot of things that the Democrats have said they're for in the past. Some things, quite honestly, that I'm not completely comfortable with. But I strongly suspect, and they didn't give a specific debrief on this, so I'm merely going by what he's said in the past. But I believe that he's going to come up with something that will challenge the Democrats, will be really reasonable. And because he's holding out his hand, an open hand to the Democrats. If they choose not to take it, then it's on them. But I think he's going to have an open hand to them.
Okay, so by reasonable, what does that actually mean?
Well, by reason,
reasonable to whom?
Well, I don't know. They didn't give. I don't have specifics. I know in the past he's talked about ending chain migration. He's talked about ending the visa lottery. He's talked about trying to deal with the crisis on the border both from a humanitarian standpoint, where we're running a city down there without funds to run a city. So you need just supplies, you need beds, you need all those kinds of things. You need doctors, you need all those things down on the border to deal with the people who are there. And we need to have immigration judges so that the immigration judges can process the amnesty cases rapidly. Right now, we've got a 4-year backup on amnesty cases. People disappear into the woodwork, and then we get about 20% of them coming back to actually do their case. And of those, about 5% of them end up getting amnesty. So you have this system right now that effectively denies people justice because it denies them a speedy trial, and B, doesn't serve the U.S. national interest because people are just blending into the woodwork, and nobody's putting their life on hold for 4 years. They're integrating into the society as opposed to, and at that point, it becomes very, very difficult to dislodge them.
Oh yeah, they not only do they blend into the society, but they vanish overall. They just go and they're gone. It's like the same deal. You get your judge, and the judge says, okay, you need to be back in court by this date. And they're like, okay. And they vanish.
So what are you going to do? It's exactly right. And that's exactly, so he's going to make what I call a common sense case that the American public will hear. And the question will be, will the Democrats meet him with a common sense case? The one thing I know is he offered a DACA deal to the Democrats, and the Democrats have not counteroffered at all. They haven't given him a counteroffer. He is essentially still waiting for a counteroffer because here's what they think.
Okay.
They think if they deny him the barrier, the wall, that they'll get elected, that Kamala Harris or somebody of that ilk will end up being president, that they'll take control of the Senate, and it'll be a repeat of the 2008 election, and then they'll be able to run the table on everything in 2021. That's what they believe is going to happen. That's Nancy Pelosi's experience. That's her life experience. And so that's what she's banking on. What she's not banking on is the fact that there are 30 Democrats who are in Trump districts. And in those Trump districts, they believe the polling shows they believe Trump is right on the barrier, that Trump has been the honest party in this. And as a result, she's got 30 Democrats in her caucus who are sitting there, who are being torn to shreds in their own districts about what their political interests are versus their political interests in Washington, D.C. And the problem Nancy Pelosi has, her caucus is completely divided on this, and it's up to us to try to make certain that those Democrats who are in those kind of districts, in Trump districts, are sitting there and are feeling as much pressure as possible, because we have to break her caucus. I say we, anybody who's on the side of secure borders has to break Nancy Pelosi's caucus and make that happen. And so it becomes really, really important that people are getting input into Congress on this issue and supporting secure border on the secure border.
Okay, so by the way, I forgot to tell you about this. You had a couple of innuendos in there, mainly Nancy Pelosi's caucus. I had to get a couple of those in, or else the audience will jeer me for that, not putting those in there. Okay, so
but you realize that's actually what it's called.
I do know that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
We do understand the actual phrasing, but it doesn't matter. That's
fine.
It's our audience is affectionately called jackholes for a reason.
That's fine. I got it.
Okay. One big thing that's being pushed by the audience specifically is a two-part question, but I don't know if you're going to be able to answer either, especially from conversations with the president. And that is, where in the budget is the money for the wall, and where is the actual budget in the first place?
Oh, that's a great question.
I know, right?
There's no budget for 2019. Okay, there hasn't been a budget created. There was a budget that the House passed last year. That did pass the House. It didn't pass the Senate, but it did pass the House, which is not all that unusual. But the president submitted a budget that basically cut the government over 10 years by $4.6 billion. It was balanced in 10 years, but that wasn't something that they considered very actively. So on the budget front, bottom line is, we don't actually do budgets in America.
Not anymore, anyway.
Not anymore. In terms of where the money is for the wall, the money for the wall is in your pocket. That's okay. That's where the money for the wall is. We're gonna
Dang it.
we're gonna print it, or like most of the deficit spending, just print it, and it becomes just another $10 billion into the deficit. If he chooses to go in terms of using the defense, his position as commander in chief, and it'll come out of the defense budget that is already appropriated, and it would be a defense budget item. There is a potential of coming out of the Department of Homeland Security budget in certain measures. But if he ends up having to go using the Defense Department, his commander in chief duties, it'll be coming out of Defense Department reallocations.
Gotcha. So more than likely it'll be a Defense Department thing. They'll be pulling it out of the Defense Department if he can't find it anywhere else, because at least they have a budget there that he can pull from because the executive branch and all that. Is that correct? Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah, it is. And Army Corps of Engineers exists as they build walls. That's what they do for a living, and it's walls and bridges. And so they're in the Defense Department, so it makes sense that would be the budget that it would be coming from, and you have some capacity transfer funds based upon the discretion of the commander in chief. So that's where I think now, truthfully, this is just my speculation. This is not based on anything I've been told in terms of. Certainly not today's conversation with the White House.
Right.
It wasn't the focal point. But yeah, I think there are places where the money exists. It's already been appropriated, and they can move forward with it if they have to.
Gotcha. So if talk about the budget and about using monies that are already put into discretionary spending makes your stomach churn, maybe you should try Atrantil. Atrantil, or lovemytummy.com/mojo. Use the promo code mojo when you buy it. You get a 90 capsule box, which is normally $39.95. You get 3 of those with the coupon code. That's a 3-month supply. It saves you $20 total on the order. It's $99 total for that package. Atrantil is the world's first ever over-the-counter proven solution for bloating and tightness and distension in the stomach area. So it's one of the best things that you can do. If you have gluten intolerances, if you're a person that has issues with food, you should try Atrantil and make sure that your tummy is the best it can be, because your stomach health is actually your physical and mental health. Go to lovemytummy.com/mojo. Use a promo code mojo and get those $20 off. It really does make my stomach churn, honestly, thinking about the money in the budget and everything else going on and how it's actually going to get spent and who's going to spend it and how it's going to be done and how it's going to be allocated. One of the biggest things that, exactly what you're saying, using the Army Corps of Engineers and things like that, is that not an overstepping of powers?
Well, I don't know if it's an overstepping of powers. I'll give you a simple example. In the Constitution, if let's say the governor of Texas said, I've got an emergency on the Texas border, the president has a responsibility to respond to a governor who's declared a national emergency at his border.
Yes, true.
So constitutionally, there's lots of ways that this could work beyond doing an emergency declaration, but I think it's very clear that Article 2 gives the president a lot of leeway in terms of defending the country and in terms of being the commander in chief. Congress has effectively walked away from their responsibilities in terms of doing anything related to War Powers Act or anything like that.
Okay.
And so it's really hard for me to get all worked up when we have a demonstrable crisis at the border, both a humanitarian and a physical crisis at the border, and with terrorists and all sorts of other bad guys, as well as people who are just sick or just trying to get here for economic purposes, coming across the border on a regular basis in a high volume.
Oh, don't forget about the sex trafficking going across our borders as well.
And yeah, I can't forget the human trafficking is really one of the most egregious things. I mean, what we have. I learned this the other day. It's just stunning to me. I didn't realize that some of the cartels, like the Los Zetas in Texas, south of Texas, actually make more money from human trafficking than they do the drugs.
Yes.
And the reason, and I never understood why until I heard somebody explain it last Friday. And what they said is there is what they do is they require these people to send their money back home. Well, they send their money back home
via
but
their stuff.
But they send it through the cartel, and the cartel takes a cut and give the money to the rest of the money to their family. And oh, by the way, if the money doesn't come,
what happens to the family?
They know where your family is.
Yeah.
So these folks who are coming here to work are then effectively slaves of the cartel. They're indentured servants to the cartel, and the cartel's always taking a piece with their family at risk. And that is how the cartel's making massive amounts of money on this human trafficking trade. And we are effectively going along and putting a blind eye to the enslavement of a whole population that's working right under our noses. That's wrong. That's what's morally wrong here. What to be morally wrong? Morally wrong is creating an environment where people are being subjected to being effectively indentured servants to really, really bad, to the mob, to the Mexican mob. It's insane for us to do that, for our policies not to fix that. It's just beyond our own. If you don't care about our own borders, at least care about the people who are being enslaved.
That are across the borders.
That are across the borders.
Well, yeah, and one of the biggest things that you were saying that one of the biggest things that they make money off of is the enslavement of these people, basically going through and the people trading, and it's an actual fact of today's society that currently, as we sit, there are more slaves in the world than there ever were during the 250 years prior to emancipation.
It's
all combined.
Yeah, it just is amazing fact, but it's true. And it's one of the things that getting away from the politics of the border. I look around the world. I worked at the Department of Labor back in the Bush administration, and one of the things I loved it. It was great. It was a great opportunity. I learned a tremendous amount. And one of the things they do is they've got something called the International Labor Bureau that tries to deal with they at least chronicle slavery around the world. And every year they come up with a book that's about that thick. And I got the opportunity to be on the President Trump's transition team in the Labor Department. And so I went and met with some people I used to work with. I was Chief of Staff Public Affairs, and I used to work with a lot of these same people doing public relations for them. And 8 years later, I come back and I have the book, and I'm looking at it, and all the same countries with all the same products are still listed. And so I asked, well, 8 years ago, we were working on this, and it's still there. How come? How come we're making no progress here?
What happened?
Well, the fact is, people get put on a list, but there's no repercussions for being on that list. For instance, cocoa. The cocoa trade out of the Ivory Coast, the Côte d'Ivoire, is a slave trade business, and all the big chocolate manufacturers, cocoa manufacturers, all know it. They've all signed a pact, and we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to try to stop this. And 8 years later, we still have the same listing, and and they couldn't give me an answer as to why, but it's a real problem. It's a real problem around the world, and it's something that I think as we become more and more aware of it, I think it's one of those things that the market can take care of. If we're aware that certain products are created using slave labor, we have a choice
to not use it.
To not use it,
like
to buy
Nike.
Like Nike.
Yes.
New Balance is made in the Northeast, American workers, and so you have a choice on a tennis shoe. You can buy a Nike or you can buy a New Balance shoe, and I'm not telling anybody what to do, but if you want to have, if you want to benefit slavers in Vietnam who pay people $100 a month to create clothing like Nike shoes, and say, that's fine. They sell you the shoe for $400. That's your choice.
No big deal.
New Balance employs American workers, and I would just take a look at that as I was making my choice.
No, they have a great shoe too. But so one of the things that's getting brought up in the feeds and everything else is, the annual what is it? The annual Intel threat assessment going through. So there, a couple of people have posted on here saying that on that you don't find things like the border wall and such like that. Real quick, is that something that should be on there, or is that something that shouldn't? Oh, can't hear you. Your mic popped out.
Yeah.
I think the music is blocking you out. Hold on 1 second. We'll get you on the other side real quick of the 2 minutes, and then we'll get you out of here, sir. Okay, this one's for the people on Facebook. All right, so finish what you were saying on the people for the people on Facebook.
On Facebook, here's the deal. Yes, it should be. I find it ironic that we spend billions of dollars protecting other people's borders, but we won't spend $5 billion to protect our own. I think that if you want to talk about threat assessment, the only place we're getting invaded from is the southern border and our ports of entry along the coastlines. And if we're not willing to invest in protecting our own borders, then I find it to be ridiculous that we're investing to protect others.
That well said. I couldn't say it any better myself, honestly. Richard, so everybody can find you at Americans for Liberty Limited Government. Yes, Americans for Limited Government.
GetLiberty.org, at Limit GOVT on Twitter, and on Facebook. Just look up Americans for Limited Government. We've got 126,000 followers. We'd love to have you join us.
And you said, what was that Twitter handle again?
At Limit GOVT, at Limit Government GOVT.
At Limit GOVT.
And my personal is at rmanning957.
And then at rmanning957.
Yep. Boom.
Put you up there. It's on the Facebook feeds, guys. If people want to look at it, and they can go and check it out there. If you want to hold for just a minute, that way you can say your goodbyes to everybody on the radio.
Happy to.
Awesome. Cool. We got 20 seconds.
20 seconds on the backside to say my goodbyes.
That's it.
Okay, no, that's good. I can do that.
Okay. All right, and we're back. You're listening to Defenders Live, and with me tonight has been Richard Manning. Richard Manning, where can people find you? Since obviously we're on the radio, give them all the information, the best ways to find you, to talk to you, to converse. If they want to join something, where can they do that?
GetLiberty.org is our website, getliberty.org, or at Limit GOVT, at Limit GOVT on the Twitter, in the old Twitterverse.
On the Twitterverse and everything else. That's right, Jack Holes. They are on the Twitters. You can find them there. He's also on the Facebooks and everything else, so you can check that out there on those cases. You said on Thursday nights you have you co-host your own podcast, don't you?
Yeah, we do. It's Conservative Commandos Radio, where we're online. We're online. CCRshow.com.
CCR show.
Yeah, and it's a so we're online. We're also on over stick broadcasters in 8 states, and obviously I then try to grab pieces of it and send it out to people who sign up for our daily feed that we put out, which, by the way, is read by people in the White House and read by people in Skokie, Illinois. So everybody gets it. It's the same information, and it's free to get. Just go to Get Liberty and sign up as a subscriber, and we don't ask you for money or anything. We just provide you the information so you can be informed.
Awesome. Well, Richard, it has been a pleasure to have you, sir. Hopefully one day soon we'll have you back, maybe in a month or a couple weeks, if that's okay with you.
Thank you. Be great. Love
awesome. It. Great stuff. Everybody, Richard Manning, thank you. You have a great night, sir. Enjoy your early morning.
Yeah. Yes, I will. Thank you very much. And watch that State of the Union. It's going to be hilarious watching Nancy sitting behind Donald Trump while he's talking. Just watch her face crack.
I think if she actually smiled, her face would break. So that's definitely the deal. Well, sir, you have a great night. Get some sleep. I'll tell you what, guys. It is quite amazing with everything going on, what we can do on a daily basis here. So glad to have him there and have him on. That was Richard Manning, by the way. If you guys didn't catch that, that's at Limit Government, at Limit GOVT on the Twitters. Glad to have him there. Sean Spicer. No, that wasn't Sean Spicer, Dad. Come on. That is not cool. Not very nice at all. So we've had a ton of stuff going through, talking about the government, talking about walls, talking about other stuff and everything else. And you know what? I knew that was going to happen. I actually had a whole nother set of things planned. This just popped up out of the blue. First thing this morning, I got an email about him being available for that sort of thing. So I had this whole thing about walls and borders and everything else. I guess I'm going to have to save that for tomorrow. Oh, wait. The president's speech. Son of a gun. I guess I'm going to have to save it for possibly tomorrow, and I don't know when that's going to help out or not, because more than likely his speech is going to overcast my show, because it is at 9 p.m. Eastern time, so everybody love that. Yay! Boo! That's okay. I can handle. Not a big deal. We should be pushing that so everybody can hear it at least. But in the meantime, a couple things wanted to go through. First and foremost, go to Tar River Arms. That's traguns.com. Tell them that Steven over at Mojo50 sent you. And you can get some good deals going on there. Tar River Arms, they're America's first virtual gun store. They make it easy and more comfortable for you to purchase your firearms online anytime. It's a modernized online firearms sales to accommodate the online generation, the generation that's not only mine and yours, but the kids that are beyond us. They have great guns, great prices at a great service. They're veteran-owned, veteran-operated. They've got weekly specials, great stuff. They eliminate some of the shipping and broker deals, especially if you use the names and the promo codes. Plus, they have layaway and consignment options available to you right now. Best things available. Get it done today. traguns.com. traguns.com. So, Wendy, you got to work? What's wrong with you? Don't tell Matlock. Yeah. Yeah, they double charge you if you tell them that Matlock sent you. But tell them Steven sent you over on Mojo, and everything's good to go. Everything will be good to go. So let me ask you a question. Blackface, bad thing, good thing? Bad thing, good thing. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Blackface is a good thing or a bad thing? I got to ask, mainly because a couple things have happened over the past couple days. We've had a governor that said, the blackface, blah, 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 and all this other junk. And I wasn't the one that did it. I was the guy that was wearing the mask of the Klansmen and junk. And, not really, but blackface is a bad thing. Probably so. Of course, if you are a comedian and on the left, and that's how you made your living, blackface is just fine. Just ask Sarah Silverman. Why ask Sarah Silverman? Because Sarah Silverman got her start by doing stupid crap like a blackface sketch. That's right, everybody. It didn't used to be a problem for liberals and the left to make fun of events and current things and do blackface and all that junk. I mean, what would the whole, white chicks movie doing the white face and everything else going on? You thought it would have been just fine, not a problem at all. You see, back in 2007 for a TV sketch, for a comedy television sketch, Sarah Silverman, that's right, everybody's beloved nastiness of a terrible joker. It's horrible. She's not that great. Yeah, not really that great. She said, and I quote, "Comedy by nature is not at all evergreen. And if you're doing it right, you look back on your old stuff and you're horrified. I can't erase it. I can only be changed by it and move on." She also said, "I was praised for it, praised for the blackface, and it made me famous." So you're telling me blackface can make this young starlet comedian, I'm saying that in big air quotes, young starlet comedian, a huge star basically overnight. But a governor who likes to dance like Michael Jackson in the state of Virginia, apparently, and has a doctorate somehow. I don't know how, but has a doctorate somehow. Apparently that guy, he can go ahead and kill babies all he wants, but yeah, wearing that blackface from 35 years ago, that's not good. Well, this is from 2007. It's a lot later in the days, a lot closer to the now time, a lot closer to the big hashtags and all the, you've got to be civil rights and everything else and blah, blah, blah. And on this Black History Month, I had to make sure to point out blackface is kind of a leftist thing. It's kind of a thing. It's kind of a thing for comedians to do. It's kind of a thing for everybody else to do. It was never a problem. Blackface wasn't a problem until Black Lives Matter. It wasn't an issue. You didn't have to worry about, blackface. Yeah, okay, I get it. But then again, we did see it as a problem. I was raised with an idea that that's not a good thing to do. Not just by my parents, but also, by the society that I lived in. It's not good to do that. Why? Because technically it's making fun of a person because of their skin color and because of the way that their lips are set. It's not a thing. You're going to make fun of somebody, make fun of somebody for what they, make fun of their beliefs or make fun of, what they do, their actions and things like that. Don't make fun of them for their skin. Don't make fun of them for having some sort of issue, for a stutter or for anything else. You make fun of the idea. You don't make it personal. You don't take it to a point to where you're causing an issue for people, even if it is comedy. You make it fun for everybody. Yeah, Dad, we never discussed blackface because we didn't have to. It was an understood notion that that's not a good thing to do. It was just, it was on the old cartoons, and it was always like, that's not good. That's not a good thing. It's probably not the best. And that's just kind of there. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it was just me, Dad. Maybe it was just me. I know we didn't actually talk about it face to face. It's just like we never had the sit down. We never had the birds and the bees face to face. It was just, I understood after a while from being around the family and everything else. That's not what you do. That's not how you work this out. And so we go from that to a couple of other stories. So you have, I wanted to get to this because this came out over the weekend, and it is incredibly funny to me. So we were talking about ICE, and we were talking about everything else going on, right? And apparently ICE is doing their job. But they're just now finally getting to doing their job for this young man. You see, there's a rapper in Atlanta, and this rapper, his name is 21 Savage. I'm sure nobody has heard of him. He just makes $8 million mumble rapping for a living. That's all he does. He mumble raps for a living, and he made $8 million. He has a net worth of $8 million. See, he came to the United States from the UK in 2005. In 2006, his visa ran out and was expired, and he decided to go underground and stay in the U.S. He has been illegal in the United States, in Atlanta, Georgia, since 2006. He got into the rap game in 2013, and he was found and made popular in 2015. Since he's been made popular, he's been claiming he is from Atlanta and everything else, and nobody's really looked at him. You see, 2013, 2015, that seems to be the same time and place that a Mr. One Barack Obama was in office, and he wasn't deporting a lot of people that were doing their overstayed visas and things like that. So he came on the radar over the past couple of years, and just found out, 2018, he did this whole neighborhood thing, right, where he did this concert for his neighborhood and everything else. and all that other mess. And so he went through this entire thing, made this neighborhood rap game and everything to back up his hood in Atlanta. And then shortly after, he was arrested because people started looking into his file and everything else. See, overstayed visas is actually one of the biggest, is one of the bigger portions of illegals in our country. We do have our border issues, but for anybody who's not south of the border, if you've come here from anywhere other than the south of the border, and you stay here past your visa limit, you are the day of, the second after your visa expires, you are illegal. For him to have actually become legal again, he would have had to go home back to the UK, file the paperwork and everything else, and it would have taken him months and months and months and months and months to come back. He was 17 at the time when he came over the first time, so I'm guessing he came over for schooling. More than likely, he dropped out based upon the scene that he got into. His real name is Shah Yah bin Abraham Joseph. I'm going to say that again. Shah Yah bin Abraham Joseph, also known as 21 Savage. If you go look up pictures of him and everything else, you'll find out that his face is covered in tattoos and all the other mess. Like I said, he was found in the Atlanta scene, and it's just hilarious that somehow a kid from the UK was able to go to Atlanta and pass as a native Georgian. That is amazing to me. Maybe he took a couple of years in the underground area to get down the slang and everything else. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know how, but that's probably how it happened. On the same lines, you have another rapper. Shocker. Another rapper whose name is Tekashi 69. I'm sure that you guys don't know him. I'm going to see if I can't pull up this image real quick for you. I'm sure you guys don't know him. Tekashi 69, right? He's been a rapper on the scene for a while. He's a kid. I mean, a kid. And when I say kid, I mean, whoa to the kid. This kid is... he looks younger than I do. And that's with the tattoos all over his face. So he looks younger than I do. Here. Take a look at this and tell me that this doesn't look like a little boy that's going through a transition phase. And by that, I mean transitioning into a girl. This man, boy, probably, something about that line. This one in particular has, he's going to jail. He's been arrested. He pled guilty to federal charges of hiring a hitman to go and shoot at one of his rival rap artist members. So somebody who's a rap artist in a different rival New York concert gang, whatever, blah blah blah. He hired a man to go shoot and kill this person. Tekashi 69, who I don't have his real name because I don't really care. So he's been indicted on the charges. What is it? Which also included his former manager included in those charges, which is hilarious to me. Oh, goodness. What is it? He's got how many years? I think he's getting like 14 years or something for this. I believe it's 14 years. Don't quote me on that. I believe he's getting 14 years in jail. And with a face and hair like that, he will be warmly welcome. He will be warmly welcome in jail. Speaking of child pornography, apparently a YouTube star, Austin Jones, a very prolific YouTube star, in fact, looks very young, but he's 26 years old. He is facing anywhere between 5 to 20 years in prison and psychological counseling for doing things like enticing underage girls to send him explicit videos and pictures of themselves to prove that they were his, quote, biggest fans. That's right, you heard me right. He pled guilty Friday to child pornography charges after he persuaded several young female fans to make and send him sexually explicit videos of themselves. Jones, who became famous for his a cappella covers and video, his name is Daniel Hernandez. Oh, wow. He is not going to be doing well. Tower, thank you. He is not going to be doing well. That's not good for him. Oh, man. So this Austin Jones guy, that's Tekashi69. His name is Daniel Hernandez. There you go. Danny boy. Okay. Anyway. He became famous for his a cappella covers and of his videos of his pop songs, and he admitted to a plea agreement to enticing 6 underage girls to send videos. This is only the ones that he's been caught for, folks. This is only the people that he's been caught for. He faces between 5 years and 20 years in prison. According to the plea, Jones convinced the 6 girls who were 14 and 15 years of age to send videos of themselves performing sexual acts, showing their butt, their breasts, their genitals, and dancing in a very sexual manner. He also attempted to persuade many more underage female fans to send him explicit videos and photographs, approximately 30 other occasions. They did not, so he didn't get charged for those. In the dancing videos, Jones would encourage the girls to talk about their age the entire time, so he has an age fetish. This kid is not just wondering about the things and like, oh, they look old enough. No. He wants to make sure that he gets off on things about things about the age and everything like that. Tower of Babel over on the MeWe chat room. 69 somebody's going to be tasting the rainbow, not in a good way. Yeah, you're right. You get a bell for that, Tower. Good job. Nicely done. You get a bell for that. Where are the parents? Not watching YouTube with their daughters. That's where the parents are. Not watching YouTube with their daughters. You see, that's where it comes with, not supervising your children when they're on their phones and allowing them to go and do pretty much whatever they want on their phones at all points in time because it's easier. They're quiet, and so you don't care. Which is a bad thing because when kids are quiet, usually they're doing something wrong. Cool. Was it Jay? This is why I have to be so rude with my 10-year-old daughter. Ask for an iPhone. I know. So here's the thing. My daughter has a phone. She has an iPhone, but it's well supervised, incredibly supervised. Like she pretty much only does a learning educational game, and she plays Pokemon on it. So. And she has a chat that is supervised by the adults. We only allow people that we've approved of talking to her and things like that. She can't even give out her number to anybody else. So we supervise it harshly, but most of the time she has earned the right to have the responsibility of having a phone most of the time. Like right now, she doesn't have it. Because she doesn't she forgot to do her homework for like a month. So no phone for her. Anyway, Jones had been scheduled to perform on the Warped Tour. This a cappella kid from YouTube was going to go on the Warped Tour last year, the year that he was arrested. But let me see. But more than 9,000 people signed a petition calling for his removal due to the allegations of the posts from several teens in 2015. So this has been going around for quite a while. This has been since 2015. This guy has been under the radar, under the microscope of things going on. And it just so happens that they finally were able to get his information and pull everything up. So it's just not so great, not good stuff. And I can thoroughly believe the case on this. So, wait a second. Kevin John Hutchins over on the Facebook. In 10 years, the public schools will be showing hardcore porno films to third graders. Well, that might be true. I mean, you do have YouTube for Kids channels already talking to Planned Parenthood and things like that. I talked about that on Friday. So yeah, hardcore porn may be the next next step. They may be showing alternative porn as well. Which guy? The kid, the YouTube guy? You want to know his name? I said his name a couple times, but what is it? Oh man, what is it? See, now it's gone. It's gone. Austin Jones. Austin Jones. The guy's name was Austin Jones. Don't go look him up. It's not a good idea. Make sure your daughter doesn't go look him up either on the YouTubes. Apparently, he was very popular for a cappella singing, which is great. That's fine, but that's where it should have stopped, and he should have stopped himself from then on in. In the same vein of things, Kansas judge calls calls girls who are 13 and 14 years old aggressors in a child sex soliciting case. That's right. You heard me right. A Kansas judge has come under fire for saying in court that two girls solicited by an online predator to have sex with him when they were 13 and 14 were partly to blame for what happened to them. Quote, I do find that the victims in this case in particular were more an aggressor than a participant in the criminal conduct. This is from the Leavenworth County Judge Michael Gibbons. What he said in the remarks delivered at a December sentencing of a 67-year-old man who paid for sex with two girls, according to the report and the Kansas City Star. The Star reported The Star reported on Sunday that Gibbons ignored prosecutors in sentencing Raymond Sodden to nearly 6 years in prison. Prosecutors said that Sodden had a prior conviction with battery and sexual battery and had asked that he be sentenced for more than 13 years. See, the paper reported that Gibbons explained in his reasoning for more leniency sentencing by saying that the two girls went to the guy's house voluntarily and took the money from him for sexual favors. That doesn't matter. They were prostituting themselves. At what? 13 and 14? Sorry. They don't have the wherewithal to understand that. Now, I do understand that girls around that age, actually children around that age, have become a lot more sexually active. Even when I was in high school, kids were coming out of middle school talking trash about, their sexual exploits and activities when they were in 7th and 8th grade, and it didn't make sense to me because it's like you're shooting. Well, first off, the boys are shooting blanks. What are you doing? It's useless. Come on, stop it. Don't do it. It's not good for you. Not right now, anyway. So, quote, they were certainly selling things monetarily that isn't against the law for even an adult to sell, he said, according to the paper, which obtained a transcript of the sentencing. Neither girl showed up for the sentencing. They also swayed the judge. That also swayed the judge's sentence, the paper reported. The child advocate for Shawnee, Kansas, told the paper that the two girls were minors and victims, not aggressors. He says, quote, sexual assault is never the victim's fault. It doesn't matter what the girls did or didn't do. He is still the adult, and nobody deserves to be taken advantage of sexually. Now, I do agree that children should not be taken advantage of sexually. I do agree to that. And this man, who's 60-something years old, shouldn't be messing with teenage girls in the first place. And I understand that they were selling it, and I'm probably sure that he didn't actually ask for ID to check and make sure. But at the same point in time, I sympathize with the judge a little bit on this. I can see how the judge would come to that conclusion. I can see how he would say, look, they were the ones pressing the issue. They were the ones that were trying to push it. They were the ones trying to sell their bodies. They were the ones that were trying to do all these things. Okay, I gotcha. But at the same point in time, that has no bearing on the sentencing. The guy did the guy did a thing that he knew he shouldn't do. He not only did a thing that he knew he shouldn't do, but he did a thing that he knew he shouldn't do with children. So at the same point in time, I get you. The kids were 13 and 14 years old. The girls were 13 and 14 years old. And they could have been pretty much fully formed at that point. I mean, children nowadays are growing rapidly. They're growing crazy. It's a nut house out there. Oh, hey, before I forget, go to traguns.com once more. Go to traguns.com. Use Steven. Tell him that Steven over at Mojo sent you. Get it going in there. It'll be great times. And wandering through. Hold on tight, guys. Next up, you have Watson Prunier over at Battle for Freedom, and then an hour after him, you have the Situation Room with Rocky Stucci. You guys are going to want to stick around for that. This has been Defenders Live. Mojo 50, live free. We'll see all you jackals tomorrow. Talk to you later, bud. Bye-bye.